My mouth is a roulette wheel, from numbers 1 through 9. Get a different weapon for each number. This was, without exaggeration or hyperbole, I want you to understand the phrase I'm about to say is meant to be taken 100% seriously. From my end, that might be hard to kind of believe, but seriously, take it seriously. This was hard to do. Not making the crazy slot clown. That was actually relatively easy with craft foam. No, this! Making a top 10 list just based off a single arc of this story, which is arguably considered, not even arguably, is considered to be the single best arc of this entire story, and further than that, one of the best arcs of all of shonen and manga in general. Oh boy! That was hard. I felt like I was back in college taking a final exam, you know, staring at a piece of paper on my desk for about an hour, trying to figure out, like, alright, well, here's all the popular moments from the Chimera Ant arc. I want you to whittle it down to 10, short answer, short essay for every single one, explain your answer, and cite your sources. That's how this felt. I dare all of you to try this as well. If you could get this done in 10 minutes or less, I think you're kind of doing it wrong. I don't know, but this was hard for me to do. And this isn't even the top 10 list. This is the top 10 list right here. This is just me listing every single moment that I really liked. But we're doing it today. Top 10 Chimera Ant arc moments. This is going to be based off of the anime. I've read the manga of this as well, but I'm really acquainted with the anime. I've probably watched the Chimera Ant arc in the 2011 anime, you know, probably like 3 or 4 times, you know, twice in the last 6 months alone. And that's really where a lot of these decisions were based off, you know, not just the plot of the arc, but also the voice acting, the sound design, the soundtracks and everything in the background, the animation. I took all that into account when I made this list. So we're going to be doing episodes 76 to 136. That's 61 episodes of the anime where this is going to be coming from. Are you ready to lock into this, Barry? All right, number 10. Phantom Troop versus the Chimera Ants. Alright, so this is a little bit of a mini arc that occurs, you know, in the middle of this story. The Chimera Ant arc is like broken up into 3 different sub-arcs, okay? We start off with Gon and Killa hanging out with Kite in the NGL, and then the second, and also training with Knuckle and Shoot at the end of that, and then the second part is kind of infiltrating East Gorto and, you know, planning the invasion of the palace, and then the final part of the arc is invading the palace. So, it was nice that Togashi gave us a little breakup from the action in between the NGL part and the East Gorto arc while everyone's trying to figure out how to get into the country. We cut over to a different part of the world. We cut over to Meteor City, and they have an ant infestation. Just a mild one, you know. Zazan went off on her own to become the new queen, like a lot of the other Chimera Ants did, and really, she's the only one we primarily focus on. There was a bunch of other Chimera Ants, like, remember the crocodile dude? They all went off to different areas to become their new, you know, kings and queens of their respective lands, right? And Zazan just happened to end up in Meteor City. I'm really happy that Togashi decided to spotlight the Phantom Troop kind of in the middle of this arc, because if he didn't, well, I guess the Phantom Troop would just kind of have fizzled out at Greed Island. We wouldn't have got, because they don't appear in the election arc at all, so it's really nice to see them, and we got one last final moment with them in the anime, at least, with them brawling against the ants, and we didn't get to see a lot of their Nen abilities during Yorknu or Greed Island, so Finks's ability, Bonaletov's ability, even Shalnark, we got to see his black voice a little bit in Yorknu, but now we get to see, like, fully what he can really do with it. We also see Kaluto Zoldyck joining up with the Phantom Troop, and then we get Phaeton. Phaeton is probably, if I was going to point to one singular moment in this little mini arc with the Phantom Troop fighting against them, I would probably say Phaeton's Pain Packer against Zazan, finishing her off there, doing the whole, like, inverted Japanese speech, and the rest of the Phantom Troop freaking out and leaving. That moment ranked very highly for me. Also, the moment when they were leaving the colony after they defeated the ants, and you have the Cronenbergian, like, ant-human hybrids that Zazan, you know, turned the townspeople into, and they're, like, suffering, and they're just like, oh, please, just end it, please! And they're, like, groveling to Finks to just end their existence, you know, because they're in so much pain right now. And Finks is just like, hey, listen, I'm not against murder, but I'm not gonna put you guys down like you're sick animals. If you want to die, come at me, and then we'll see what I can do. And they're like, oh, thank you so much, sir. Roar! Yeah, okay. Bam! And then, you know, sees where it goes from there. So, those moments were really powerful, but, yeah, it was just also really cool to see the full breadth of this infestation, you know? Like, this isn't something that's just limited to one part of the world. These ants are getting out, and they're spreading, and there's still some of them that are around in the world. They were reclassified as magical beasts at the end of the, Chimera Ant arc, but that doesn't change the fact there's a lot out there that might be up to some stuff, so I guess we'll have to see, but yeah, it was really cool to see the Phantom Troop in action again. even if it was minus Crollo. But yeah. Also, we didn't get Hisoka in this arc. It was explained later why Hisoka doesn't show up. He was off chasing Crollo around, but how awesome would it have been for Hisoka to show up in the middle of all this? Just one episode. One episode, you know, we're in the middle of the palace invasion, we just cut over to, like, Hisoka going for a stroll, looking for Crollo, then an ant pops out, and Hisoka, like the crocodile dude, and Hisoka just snaps his neck and moves on. Like, I don't know what the hell that thing was. Whatever. I need to find Crollo. Yes. Alright, that would have been cool in of itself. Alright, so that's number 10. That's kind of like a mini arc inside of the arc. Okay, so now we're getting into the main focus of this. Alright, number 9, Kite's death. Yeah, number 9, Kite's death. I'm also including the moment where we get to meet Peto properly, the whole thing with Peto's end, terrifying Gon and Killua, and then Kite losing an arm. And I'm also including Crazy Slots in here as well. I know we were shown Crazy Slots earlier on in the arc, but Crazy Slots is one of my favorite Nen abilities. Kite's one of my favorite Hunter x Hunter characters, might very well be my favorite character altogether, so I really want to include Crazy Slots on this list somewhere, so I'm fitting it in there because he uses it against Peto, even though we didn't really get to see the kind of technique he utilizes. You know, this was the turning point for this arc. This arc starts off right after Greed Island. Gon and Killua meet up with Kite. And it's like, oh yeah, Kite, I remember him from the first chapter. If you read the manga, in the anime, this is the first time you're meeting him, but okay, cool, right, whatever. And you think like, alright, this is gonna be cool, man. This is gonna be Gon and Killua teaming up with Kite, going after some ants and just doing an extermination. I said in the video with Yugi and Kaio yesterday, I was saying it's kind of like in a D&D campaign. You know, it's just like, alright, let's say you're all level 3, and it's like, you know, the local lord of your town, you know, there's some problems with you know, some low-level monsters in the woods, you know, nothing dangerous. There's some, like, you know, maybe some werewolves out there, 2 or 3 werewolves, you know, a party together, and you'd be okay. And so you go out there, and you have a little bit of rough fights, and it's like, oh, this is kind of difficult, but I definitely think we can handle it. And then you get to the center of the woods, and, like, a lich pops out, like, you know, challenge rating 17, have fun! You know, like, that's how this feels, like, legitimately. It's like, oh yeah, Gon and Killua just going around exterminating ants, and there was even so many moments where Togashi threw in these red herrings throughout this scene, where Kite was like, after they defeated Yunju's little group, their little squad in the factory, Kite was like, you know, complimenting Killua and Gon's abilities, like, yeah, don't worry, your abilities, you'll definitely have a lot of opportunities to train and improve as we go through this, you know, and it's like, oh yeah, we're gonna go through, wipe out these ants, get to the queen will probably be a tough fight, Kite, you can handle that, and we'll help you out, and then we'll be, you know, no fuss, no muss, and it just, this gets really, really out of hand, and then it really goes from like 0 to 60 like that, where they are approaching the nest and they're still like kilometers away, and then Kite just looks over the cliff and he's like, wow, we're dead. He has this moment like, whoa, I underestimated this insanely. Killua, Gon, you need to get out of here now, because Peto's end just can see them from miles away. Peto just launches directly at Kite, and he's like, you know, loses an arm, and he's like, alright, this is probably going to be a life or death battle, like, seriously. And he activates Crazy Slots. He's like, oh, you're really screwed, aren't you? 3! And then he gets this badass mace. We don't really know what it can do. You know, Killua knocks out Gon, because Gon was about to go crazy, and they get the hell out of there, and the entire time Killua was running away, he's just like, man, wow, we were worth less than a one-armed kite. Yeah, we really bit off more we could chew on this one, yeah. So they managed to get away, and we all know what happens to Kite, unfortunately. He doesn't make it out of there. I mean, he does, but he doesn't, but he does, but he doesn't. His head doesn't. Yeah, that's when you get to the point, like, you know, I don't know, like, because I wasn't reading the manga when this first came out. I wasn't watching the episodes when they were first airing. I watched all this stuff after the fact, and I was kind of already, like, you know, shown some stuff beforehand. So I knew the Chimera Ant arc was this huge arc. So I knew it wasn't going to end, like, you know, after a couple of episodes. But maybe if you were, like, watching or reading it for the first time, you might have thought, yeah, this is just going to be a nice little arc with Kite and Gon and Killua hanging out and dealing with a mild threat. No. No. No, no, no. No, 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 no. But yes, and of course, there was another moment with Kite's body, and when Gon meets the... I couldn't even fit that on this list. There's an honorable mentions list as well I'm going to get into, but yeah, there's a lot of stuff that's going to connect back to other moments, and that's what I see. A lot of caveats with this, but alright, let's move right along. Number 8 on the list, Killua versus Yuppie. I wanted to include a Yuppie fight. I had to include a Yuppie fight. Shoot versus Yuppie was a tearjerker. Knuckle coming to save his friend, you know, Yuppie, bring it on, you son of a gun, you know, you gotta dial down this way, you know, it's great, bring it on, you son of a bitch, Yuppie. A lot of stuff to go into here with Yuppie, but I wanted to include a fight with him, and I wanted to also kind of fit in his evolution as a character, you know, just because, you know, you think immediately he's gonna be this brutish, you know, like, I'm the big musclehead kind of character, all I know how to do is punch things. Once again, Togashi subverts the hell out of that trope pretty damn quickly, where he is an enraged beast, but then he slowly begins to figure out that rage is actually his power. Like, not just getting really mad for the sake of being mad, but getting mad and then channeling that rage, focusing it at a particular target, and then kind of maturing in the process. Love Yuppie. So, out of all of the fights Yuppie's had, I think he was the member of the Royal Guard that has probably the most fights, yeah. I mean, Poof has a few encounters, but yeah. Yuppie's definitely like the frontline fighter kind of dude, and Killua's fight with him was also radical, because Killua activates his new techniques. That's also a big reason that got included on here. His Speed of Lightning and his Whirlwind technique. I think he primarily used Whirlwind during this fight. We get to see this scene where Killua goes Super Saiyan 2. That alone kind of deserved a spot on this list. And then the scene where Killua, also the reason why he's there, not just because, yeah, Killua's got some new Nen techniques, that's really awesome. We get to see him just speed blitz lightning screw over Yuppie in a bunch of different directions. All the while, Yuppie's just like, what? Okay, this isn't hurting, but I can't hit you. No, even more impactful is Killua's mental state, which, yeah, that's also on the list, you know, building up throughout the arc with Gon, and it eventually comes to a head like a dam bursting when he meets Palm, which is also on the list. But this was like his venting moment. This was like, you know, I'm so pissed off right now at everything, I'm just going to take all of it out on Yuppie. And you know what? Even after this massive fight where he just like blitzes the hell out of Yuppie, you know, this still isn't good enough for Killua to, like, completely vent. He breaks down, he breaks down in the fetal position later, right? That's kind of the difficult, one of the hardest parts about making this list, is that, yeah, there's singular moments that are really amazing, but the things that make those singular moments amazing is all the little jigsaw puzzle pieces, the smaller moments, the breadcrumb trail, that just slowly built into this beautiful scene. Alright, I also had a really hard time trying to fit all of the stuff with Miriam and Co McGee on this list, for obvious reasons. Their story is amazing, but there's so many different parts of it that constitute different moments, it's hard to kind of, like, I could honestly make a top 10 just Miriam and Co McGee moments. I could do that without exaggeration, and it would probably be very emotional, it would make perfect sense, too. But, yeah, that's just one little puzzle piece in all of this, building to this bigger moment later on with Killua and Gon. But, yeah, Killua feels dejected. He feels like Gon doesn't really particularly care about him at this point. Gon kind of snapped at him while they were waiting for Peto. And Killua just, like, I have all these feelings, I don't know really what I'm going to do with them. I'll just beat the crap out of this giant red guy with eyeballs over his body. That's as good as anything, I suppose. You know, you just drew the short straw, dude. And then boom. And so, yeah, good moment there with Yuppie and Killua. You know, Yuppie's ability, Killua's ability, and the whole build-up to why Killua was there to begin with. All right, number 7. So this was, you can either say, like, the invasion of the palace begins, because that was all one moment when Moro is just like, go, charge! And then boom, at the same moment that's going on, Netero and Zeno are airdropping out of a giant dragon and launching an air raid on the palace. That is what I had in mind when I made this. Yeah, the moment when the group, Gon and Killua and Moro and everybody, they charge into the central staircase and Yuppie's right there. That's a good moment too, but what I had in mind specifically for the beginning of the invasion was Netero and Zeno's drop. A lot of stuff to unpack here. This is the moment where time really does dilate. Time dilates so much in this one particular scene in these few episodes. Zeno even comes on as the narrator in a fancy Chinese banquet hall and was like, ah, yes. These next few episodes and chapters are all going to take place in the span of like 10 seconds, so I hope you're ready. So this includes Netero dealing with Peto. You know, him just like, you know, bad move, little ant, and just boom, and just slapping Peto into the next freaking county. And then you got freaking Zeno there doing his little monologue, the Dragon Dive, and then, more importantly, you get Netero's backstory here. This was something that, of course, is not going to play a central role until, a little while later when Netero and Muirom finally begin their fight. But once again, this is the piece when Netero appears, and this was the first time we really got to see Netero. Like, we had the moment when he was just exterminating the ants earlier in the arc, but that wasn't a big deal. That wasn't really that dangerous for him. No, this was a moment where it was like, okay, he's kind of resigning himself to, like, this could be very well my final battle. This could be the thing that finally ends this old man's life. And Netero was like 120 years old or something. It's ridiculous. So he slices his top knot. He wears his favorite shirt. Barry's rocking the heart symbol here. And he's like, I'm going to go into this in battle mode. And once again, another piece of this, earlier in the arc, when Killa was just kind of running around East Corto, he has a moment where he runs across, it's still a fair distance away, but he runs across a clearing where he sees Netero on top of like a mesa or a plateau, just like focusing and charging his energy. And it was enough for Killa to be like, nope, not going that way, and just running away in the opposite direction. So he arrives to this battle with his game face on, ready to go. And then Peto charges at him with her, Topsy Kara activated, just ready to attack. And, freaking Netero just looks down as, bad move, little ant. In that moment, it took in less than a fraction of a second. The arm stopped in a place that made no sense, and Peto got sent flying like 70 miles away in the opposite direction. Now, maybe Peto was able to stay in the fight with Dr. Blythe and everything, but still, that was just an incredible moment. And then we go kind of like seamlessly just transition right in to his backstory. We have Zeno explaining the 100 type Guanyin Bodhisattva and really what that is. Not really what it is, but that's like the one thing you have to be afraid of. So yeah, lot of stuff to really unpack there with that scene, but I'm going to focus mostly on Netero's backstory with the punching and going down to the dojo and having the master just begin to weep tears with just joy and like, oh my god, you are truly a deity in human form. Netero's like, yup. Yep, I do my best. So that, and of course, this is all added to by the backdrop of thousands of dragon arrows just descending upon the palace like a legit air raid. They say that later, like Bezef is just like, man, there's an entire air raid without my knowledge. Zeno, this one old dude, is capable of just like an air raid on a massive scale by himself, and it wasn't even that big of a deal for him. I wonder how much Netero had to pay Zeno to do that dragon dive technique. I wonder how many Jenny had to be dropped for that alone. He's like, I wonder if Zeno, how does that work? I wonder if there's like a website you could just go on, like the Zoldyck assassination site. I'm like, all right, well, if you want me to use Dragon Dive, that's gonna cost a couple 100 million Jenny. If you just want Dragon Head against your enemies, there's like a menu he has. Here's my services that I offer. Okay, so that backdrop was going on at the same time. It's just like, this is Netero. He's the chairman of the Hunter Association. He's had quite an enriched life. He's got his game face on. Here you go. Come at him half-hearted, or even if you come at him full-hearted, probably still not going to be enough. All right, number 6. Killa removes Illumi's needle. This also includes his swift defeat of Ramot, and also just once again another piece in the puzzle between Killa and Gon's relationship that just gets to a boiling point by the end of this entire arc. So much to a boiling point that it kind of circles back around to just like exhaustion, I guess. This is the arc where you really start to understand. I mean, it's definitely been hinted at before this plenty of times, but this arc is really when it kind of gets to the breaking point of Killa's sort of dependence on Gon. And sort of how he puts Gon up on this huge pedestal, because I think Killa feels like, Gon was my first friend, so therefore I always have to, like, kind of always be there for him, no matter how he acts or no matter what he does, and he kind of starts, I don't want to say deifying Gon or anything like that, but he certainly views him as, like, a savior. He views him with much more, admiration than you would probably give just a normal friend or even a really good friend. He's really putting Gon up on this huge pedestal. And every time Gon does something that's honestly his own fault and directs it toward Killa, Killa takes it all on himself, like he's the problem, he's the one that's not doing something right. But anyway, the moment here is between Ramot, and he realizes that he can't beat him, or he's afraid to fight him, and it was kind of like refreshing in a sense, because up until this point, we've had this with Shoot and with Biscuit, where Killua always backs down in the middle of a really intense fight that he's not sure he can win, and we think, like, this was psychological conditioning from being raised as an assassin, and that's part of it, but no, there's something, like, physical going on here. Illumi literally shoved a needle into Kill's brain with this constant manipulation aura message of, like, back away, you can't win, leave, escape. And that's constantly, like, ringing in his brain. So Killua finally realizes, no, this is not something that I'm coming up with. This is something else altogether. And he literally jams his finger in his damn head and then rips out this needle. And he's like, that felt good. And that's just the first step on kind of Killua's rehabilitation. Like, the ultimate goal for Killua, I feel, is living for himself. Not living for his family, not living for Illumi's goals, not even living for Gon. Gon is his friend, yes, but first and foremost, you need to worry about yourself, man. And I understand they're kids, you know, so there's a lot of stuff going on there with that. But, you know, they're not going to be perfectly like, you know, Gon, let's talk about our relationship here and exactly what it means to be in this kind of unhealthy relationship, if you're sort of being honest with you, and the way you're acting to me sometimes and the way I'm viewing you, that's really not healthy. We should discuss this. You know, they're little kids. They're like 12 years old, okay? But still, this is the first moment where Killua rips out that needle and starts living for himself, you know, so far, you know, so to speak. So then he immediately just swiftly decaps Ramont, and that was cool to see him. Like, he's just like the snake in front of him, and he's like, what? And then shing, and then done. There. So very, very big moment for Killua. A lot of Killua moments on here, but that's just because the Gon moments are further down the list. All right, moving right along. Number 5, Peto protecting Komugi. This also includes Miriam leaving Komugi in Peto's charge, because that kind of happened right before this moment. This also includes, like, the moment between Netero and Zeno, where they kind of realize what they did, and, you know, the situation at hand here. When Netero and Zeno first walk in, they see the king caring for this young girl. They realize that he's not this evil monster we originally... I mean, honestly, I could imagine Netero wanted the king to be this, like, irrefutably evil monster that just wants to see the world burn, because that would make Miriam easier to fight. Right? But no, it's like the worst case scenario for them. They walk in and see the king like, oh crap, he's not a monster. He's caring for this girl in this loving embrace that was damaged by us, by the way. That we're the ones that attacked. We're the ones that, you know, punched a hole in her chest or her stomach or whatever. And now Miriam gets up and he's like, okay, well, we'll fight, but we're going somewhere else. And that's the moment where they realize this is going to be more complicated than it is. But the main focus of this moment, of course, is Gon and Killua arriving on the scene, Peto healing Komugi with Dr. Blythe, and then Peto's actions basically as they put it, a motherly instinct, a motherly protection instinct, acting like a cat, you know, defending her kittens. By the way, my neighbors just had kittens the other day. They were so adorable! Oh my god, they're so cute! Anyway, so she acts like that, like a mother cat protecting her kid, because Miriam, the king, entrusted Peto to, like, Peto, make sure she's okay, heal her. And then that moment, Peto cries, like, oh my god, I've been entrusted with the service of the king. And this is the moment where the royal guards, I mean, this has kind of also been hinted at, but this is the moment where the heat's on, and the royal guards, with maybe the exception of Poof, begin to kind of change along with the king. Redirect, you know, what they want, because they live to serve the king, who's supposed to be the apex predator of the Chimera ants, but now he's changing, so now the royal guard is beginning to change. And then Peto assumes this new kind of motherly role. So, to the point where she breaks her own arm to satiate Gon. She's like, Gon, I can't. I simply can't. And it's not even like even when Gon walks in and just like, you're gonna heal Kite, Peto's not even really paying attention to what he's saying. She's viewing it more as like, oh crap, this is a threat, and I need to protect this woman at all costs, so I'll do whatever I have to do. I'll lay myself prostrate, I'll break my limbs, I'll do whatever I have to do to just make sure she's okay. And so, of course, then you get the moment between Gon and Killua, where Gon is just losing his shit, and Killua's trying to tell him to calm down, and Gon's just like, it must be really fine and dandy for you, Killua. My god, like, at that moment, like, look, Gon, I get what you're going through. I get it. Like, Kite died, you cared about him. I understand. I get that, and you're really mad right now. And once again, Gon was hoping to go into this thinking that the enemies were just irredeemably chaotic evil. Like, Gon was probably getting himself pumped up there the entire time they were invading the palace. Like, Yeah, I can feel Peto's here, yeah. I'm gonna walk right in, Peto's gonna be there. This, like, you know, demonic creature, not human, and just, you know, gonna attack me, and I'm gonna be like, you bring back Kite now, and I'm gonna have to beat Peto down and then drag her back to Kite. You know, like, that's probably what Gon was expecting. Not expecting this, and the rage does really not have much outlet to go, but my god, there's scenes there, especially when Gon snapped at Killua, where I just wanted to look at Gon and I'd just be like, Gon, you need to chill out, man. You need to really stop. Like Killua's here to help you, so, you know, quit being a dick. You know, I get it. You're really distraught right now, but Killua, they're taking it out on Killua is just a douchebag move, okay? You know, he's trying to help you out here. Yeah, I know you care about Kite, and he cares about Kite too. You know him more. Yeah, that's great. Awesome. But just washing yourself in anger and rage and just snapping at everyone that tries to help you, not really helping here, okay? But anyway, then we have the intense moment where Gon just finally agrees, like, fine, I'm calm now. How long are we waiting? 3 hours? You have 1. Go. Probably not as intimidating when I do it. But the entire time, you feel Gon is still trying to maintain that level of rage that he's got, because Gon is just a figure of rage throughout this entire latter half of this arc. You know, he just feels like probably he needs to have that in order to defeat Peto. In order to save Kite, he has to hold on to that power of that revenge, that rage, that anger he feels. But now, he has to stay calm for an hour and wait for this to happen. So the entire time he's there, he's just like, still trying to psych himself up, not trying to wane, not trying to truly calm down. He tells Killua, I'm going to calm down. He's like, no, I'm not really trying to. I'm just going to sit here, and I'm just going to psych myself up even more. I'm just going to sit here, and on constant repeat in my head, I'm just going to go through that moment when you killed Kite, you ripped his arm off, and I'm just going to keep, like, and then that moment where his corpse was attacking me, I'm just going to cycle through that in my head for an hour. You better be ready after this shit's done. You have other moments with Poof showing up, with Knuckles showing up later while Gon is still waiting. But that initial moment where that moment of rage just billows forth from Gon, and the moment with Killua, and then Peto protecting Co McGee, all of that constitutes this number 5 spot. And also, that's, I think, the first Miriam and Co McGee moment on this list. You know, just one other part of this puzzle. Number 4 is going to be Palm's rebirth, and her fight with Killua and Killua's breakdown. All takes place in the same episode, so I feel that constitutes a moment there. So I didn't care much for Palm when she was first introduced. I didn't care much for her attitude, and just be like, okay, so she's got some issues. You know, she's got some serious issues there. But, you know, eventually when, you know, once again, the operation starts and she goes in, I didn't want anything bad to happen to her. I wanted her to succeed. I didn't want her to die. I wanted her to make it through the palace and everything, and you know, complete her mission. And so when the invasion finally started, I'm like, okay, I am hoping Palm is alive, you know. We finally get to her rebirth, and it's a question of, like, okay, is she an ant, or is she still Palm? Does she still have her humanity? How's this exactly going to work? We get the whole backstory with how Poof and Peto experimented on her, like, messing around with her messing around with her brain, disconnecting the parts of, like, her memories, connecting to her emotions, and trying to, like, form the perfect ant-human hybrid soldier kind of thing with Palm. And she runs into Killua, and the thing is, Palm is kind of obsessive over Gon, and Killua is kind of obsessive with Gon too, if we're being sort of honest with ourselves here. And so they're kind of not at good odds with each other, you know, and she's like, oh, you're always acting like such a spiteful brat around Gon just because you can't have him for yourself and stuff like that. And the fight gets on. The fight does not last very long. I love Palm's other ability, her Black Widow. Don't get to see it outside of this one particular fight, but using her hair as, like, the dress and the hat, I love that. You know, she's the only person that could kick your ass wearing, like, a Victorian-style sun hat. You know, it's crazy. But that's cool, and her Wink Blue was neat as well. But yes, the moment where she realizes who she really is, like, I am Palm Siberia, and then she grabs Poof's little clone, his little Beelzebub fly, and then crushes it and smashes it. But then, of course, more so than that, when Killua breaks down and starts crying, and it's the line that I can't help but get a little choked up for, just the way it's, you know, just the way it's performed in the anime. Both the English and the Japanese do this really well. It's like Killua realizes, like, rage is going to get him nowhere, and he can't bottle it in anymore, and he's an assassin, so he's not raised to cry and break down like this, but he cries and breaks down right in front of Palm. Like, Palm, just when you see Gon, tell him you're okay. I can't help him anymore. Like, okay, wow, yeah, you guys, like, there's so many other videos out there, I feel, that talk about Gon and Killua's, like, relationship that do a better job here than what I could do just in the middle of this list as, like, a tangent or a caveat. So I don't even really want to dive in. Like, that's kind of a topic for a whole other video. Yeah, there's a lot to unpack there with that. And, you know, they should, once again, they're kids, you know, so, you know, they're dealing with emotions they probably don't even really understand all that well, what Killua is really doing to Gon and what Gon is really doing to Killua. But yeah, that was the floodgate moment that was building. It, honestly, I'll say a tangent because this is the first thing that comes into my mind. It was back during Greed Island. It was the scene in Greed Island when they were at the dodgeball match with Razor. And Gon has to use his Jonken to hit the ball while Killua holds it to, like, launch it at Razor. Like, that's the only way they can really win doing this, right? And so Tesgera notices, like, okay, Killua's hands have to be wrecked because he's not using his hands, he's not using any aura on his hands to protect them. Meanwhile, Gon is fully charging his aura and slamming it into a ball at full force. His hands got to be wrecked. And so he calls them over, is like, Killua, your hands are broken. We know they are. You have to show them to us. And Killua was like, oh, no, old man, I'm fine, I'm fine. Biscuit grabs his hand, pulls it out. They're all swollen, bruised, broken. And Gon does not really seem all that upset by that. He's like, yeah, I knew I was hurting Killua, but, we have to win, and he's my friend, so he's the only person that can do it. And Gon, like, at first he acts a little bit upset, but not as upset as you think you would be doing this. Gon seems relatively okay with this, and Killua immediately is just like, well, see you, there you go, old man, Gon needs me, I'm the only one that can do this, so even if it hurts me and breaks my hands, it's cool. Even after the battle is over, I don't think Gon goes up to apologize, like, I'm sorry, Killua, for hurting your hands. He just goes up to Razor and asks him about Jean. Yeah, I don't think it's, I might be forgetting something, it might be included in the manga, but when I saw that scene in the anime, I'm sitting like, whoa, back up here. Gon's like, yeah, I know I was hurting his hands, but, it's what has to be done. You know, he's my friend, I can't do this without him. That seems kind of like, that honestly to me, that seemed like a justification, just like a mechanism Gon's thinking like, well, it is pretty bad, his hands are getting broken, but, Killa was my friend, and I trust him, so it makes it okay. That's number 4. Apologize for the tangent. Now we're getting into the top 3. Alright, so that was a good, transition there. Okay, number 3, Netero versus Muirom. The entire fight from when they arrive at the testing site. 100 type Guani Bodhisattva, first 10, 99th hand, all of that stuff. The conversation that Netero has with Muirom, beginning with, like, Netero realizing Muirom is no longer this, pure evil being. He might have been at the very beginning. He was at the very beginning. But now he's beginning to sway between ant and human. And Netero realizing at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter whether he's one or the other. It doesn't even matter if he comes over to the human side. He still won't be accepted. He still must be exterminated. And throughout the entire fight, there's sort of this running theme where Netero is like, do not look down on humans or don't underestimate humans, Muirom. And the original, like, way that this could be conveyed when watching this fight, and it's a beautifully animated fight. Like, this is a fight in anime that, like, top 10 best fights of all time in anime easily would be on that list. But it's one of those things you could just watch whenever. I mean, the choreography of this, the narrator. I love that Hunter x Hunter narrator, man. He is on point so many times in this story. He basically becomes a main character when it gets to the Chimera Antarc. There's entire episodes where the most dialogue comes from the narrator. Love that guy. But the soundtrack in the background, that, like, choir queuing up, like, oh, I can't do it. I'm never going to try to do it. But, it's amazing. And, but yeah, there's this running theme here, this beautiful artwork also with, like, Netero and Muirom, like, clashing and, like, this beautiful, like, painted artwork from, like, the Edo period or whatever. And, at the end of the fight, when Netero exhausts literally everything he's got in the tank. He busts out his 100 type Guani Bodhisattva, loses his arm, loses his leg, uses the Zero Hand, which is basically just this giant laser beam he fires right point blank at Muirom. That doesn't do the trick, and he resorts to his final trump card, which is a nuclear bomb that he essentially implanted in his body that he triggers upon his death. Now, the moment what makes this not just like a powerful moment, but a really real moment. Like real world we live in, real. That kind of real. The whole line throughout the entire fight of like, don't underestimate humans, you know, don't look down on humanity, that wasn't meant to be interpreted as, oh, humans are, you know, we can come together and we can, you know, defeat any obstacle and we're going to unite in peace and harmony. We're going to defeat you. You know, you're just evil. We're going to crush you. It is not intended to be viewed that way. The way that Netero says it all. He says, do not underestimate the bottomless malice of the human heart. Basically saying to Muirom, like, Muirom is only like a couple of weeks old at this point. You know, he doesn't know much about humanity other than what he's read in books and encountered from the humans and stuff, and he's learned a lot from Co McGee, but he doesn't know a lot about the world in general. And Netero is basically explaining to him, like, you know, you ants, you know, we thought you were the threats. Oh no, you're not the threat. You're nothing. Because humanity is here, and if there's one thing humanity is really, really good at, time and time again, it's figuring out ways to wipe each other out, to wipe out humanity. You know, wars, death, biological weapons, and nuclear bombs. That's what you need to be afraid of. We're really good at destroying shit. We're humans. Muirom dies from this, kind of, sort of. If left on his own, he probably would have died. But he comes back because of Yuppie and Poof. But that's okay. I would have been more pissed if he came back and, you know, he was just like, oh, well, Netero launched a nuclear bomb and it didn't even do anything. No, Netero is still the reason why Poof and Yuppie and Muirom die. You know, that was still because of Netero that they ended up dying. So that's... You could still strike that as a win on Netero's part, you know. Netero still got that kill. It happened a couple hours after he died, but he still got that kill. Yeah, that moment there with Netero's face just representing the sheer limitless malice of the human spirit and the human heart, and just expressing that to Muirom, and Mirom's face right here when he realizes, oh, I've been in checkmate the entire time. You know, that's the moment where I think his arrogance kind of wanes a little bit and he realizes, oh, I was looking down on humans this whole time. Wow, they are really good at this. Wow. Yeah. Let's move on. Let's move on from that, because that moment, once again, I feel like just drawing on about it more and more is just going to lessen it. But let's continue. All top three of these are going to be like that. Number 2, Goins Contract with his Nen. Adult Gon, his fight with Peto, and something that does not need to be looked over, cannot be looked over, is when Killa finds Gon. I know when everyone thinks of this moment, they think of how badass it was when Gon just erupts with the aura after, you know, Peto tells him I can't heal Kite, and he just goes crazy and then activates his adult form, and the adult form looks awesome, and we're like, alright, this fight's on, and he just beats the ever-loving shit out of Peto, and even after Peto rips off his arm, he just jams it right into it, like so many Jonkens in that. Yeah, awesome moment in Shounen, but that moment when Killa arrives after rushing off to see him, and you see Gon's expression as an adult crying, Killa realizes almost immediately what he had to do to get to this point. The contract, the condition he must have set. And they realize, I think Killa realizes more than Gon at this point, because Gon is still awash in still his rage and just like, okay, Kite's not coming back, so I just need to obliterate Peto to like the molecular level until she's not around anymore. But then Killa realizes just what this really means. Like, Gon literally traded away every ounce of potential he had for this one moment. That's how enraged he was at Peto. And, you know, the moment when Gon looks over at Killa, it's like, it's okay, Killa. I'm fine. And they just kind of embrace each other, and eventually Gon, you know, he shrivels back up, and then, you know, Killa carries him away, and Palm sees them later in her crystal ball. But yeah, that moment was, I mean, the whole scene was brilliantly done, but just, like, beyond the actual fight between Peto, just getting wrecked and then coming back from the dead, even after her head was obliterated, and then ripping off Gon's arm and then just jamming in there and just finally finishing off the body. That was Gon releasing all of his rage for Kite. But then what does he have? He has nothing. He has this emptiness inside of him now. Now, Kite is still alive, but he doesn't know that yet. So he has this moment where he literally traded away everything that he could have possibly obtained in his life for this one moment to defeat Peto. And he did it. Now what? Then I think that's the moment where right before Gon loses consciousness, he looks over at Killua. I think Gon realizes, now that he's all, after his brain is like all flushed out and kind of refreshed, and after everything was done, after, emptying it out with, fighting Peto and everything, he's like, he doesn't say it, but he remembers, and like all the things he said to Killua and the way he's been acting for the last few, days and everything since finding out about Kite. I think he realizes what he's done, and then Killua sees it, and Killua cries as well, I believe, in that one particular scene. And Killua just like, it's okay, it's okay, man, it's all right, I'll take you back. And then, of course, that leads into the election arc with Aluka and Nanika and everything later, with Killua making his decision to, I'm going to save you, and then you're going to have to apologize for everything you've done. Because I can tell Gon feels sorry for what he did in that last shot there, but still, I mean, he needs to apologize. All right. So, like I said, a lot of moments leading up to number 1 here. But first, I want to go through a list of honorable mentions before we get to number 1. I'm just going to go through this as quickly as I can. Moral's introduction. I love Moral. I like him more than Nove. Moral basically acts like a war veteran. He's been in so many battles that involve Nen. His Deep Purple is one of the most versatile abilities in the series. He just talks. He talks that way. Like, I've been into a lot of fights, man, and my Deep Purple is one of the most battle-suited, versatile techniques ever. Really great dude. It just sucks that he wasn't really at full power during the invasion. I liked his fight against Chitu, though. Chitu and Moral was a great fight because it really showcased, like, here's somebody that knows all about Nen and how to really fine-tune your ability to make it perfectly suited for combat, and then here's Chitu, who's an idiot. But it was a cool scene. Knuckles' APR. I did a whole other video about that. That was one of the 2 Nen videos I did, Hisoka's Nen and Knuckles' APR ability, his Chapter 7. We've never seen the IRS activated except on Gon, and all the times he uses it, too. He uses it against Chitu, it gets exercised. He uses it against Yuppie, it gets he has to deactivate it to save Moral. Uses it on Poof, he gets knocked out by Miriam, it gets deactivated. We never get to see it. Was so close to activating with Yuppie, and we didn't get to see it, unfortunately. But Knuckles' APR is a big high point of the arc. Also, Nove's Hide and Seek. That's probably one of my go-to anime abilities if I was ever given a power. Like, you can get one anime ability, probably going to be a pocket dimension teleportation kind of ability. I love the way Nove activates it with the little scripts that he makes in the ground, and he just, like, dives into this giant apartment complex, and, little pocket dimension. Love Nove's ability. Nove's infiltration of the palace. That was a big one. That was one of the episodes where the narrator takes over, and you really feel, your heart's pumping as you're watching Nove, like, holy shit, okay, okay, I gotta sneak in, run, okay, because Nove realizes one wrong step, he's dead. So, yeah. Meeting Icalgo, and also, might not be a lot of people's favorite moments, but one of my favorite moments is Killua fighting against the Ortho siblings with the fish darts, but mostly meeting Icalgo, who is, he's a hard-boiled squidopus, you know what I mean? Icalgo's fight with Bloster and his dealings with Welfin in the underground section. I liked those episodes just because it was like, Icalgo, he has combat capabilities, but most of that fight with Bloster is like, all right, I gotta use what I have. I gotta use these, like, there's this underground bunker area. I gotta lower these bulkheads. I gotta deal with this gas. I gotta have all these, like, he's basically MacGyver. I got, like, all these different things. I got duct tape. I got a bottle. I got some lighter fluid. I got a lighter. How am I gonna do this to take out Bloster? And he has to come up with this really elaborate tactical plan with a tank and everything. I love that type of shit. I really do. Reina's return. Reina is the ant that got turned into the soldier ant under Hina. And then she finally comes back to the village in the NGL at the end of the story, at the end of the arc. It was a very emotional moment for me, especially since it's right next to the whole moment, which is going to be number 1 on this list. It was one moment, really. It had some build up, but that's not really a main focus of the arc. But I really wanted to put that on here. The scene where Muirom takes over the palace. I love that because that was back when Muirom was really just the sheer embodiment of pure evil. You know, I'm just going to wipe out humanity. Like, that was his primary goal there at that point. He invades the palace in East Corto, wipes everybody out, and, you know, goes in to see Diego in there, and he just, like, wipes out Diego, and he's like, all right, well, this is our palace now. I just love that scene where he shows up. Also, you have Mirom's theme playing in the background when he does that, and it's really great. Unasked Advice, I think it's called. Goins reuniting with Kite, the corpse of Kite, not when he reunites with Kite at the end of the election arc, when he meets Kite's body, the body that's used as a training mechanism for the ants. That actually I put down as, like, if I was going to make a number 11 on the list, that would have been number 11. Just the moment where Gon goes over to, like, hug a corpse, essentially, and Kite just beats him and attacks him and stuff. That's, yeah. Muirom uses his aura. This is a scene where after he arrives back at the palace and right when they are planning the game to, like, hunt everybody down, there's a scene where Muirom just geysers his aura all over the palace grounds. And Knuckle and Miriam are in the crowd trying to blend in. And there's a scene where Knuckles senses the aura and he's just like, whatever this is, it sure as hell's not something we could deal with. You would need an entire nation's military to deal with this thing. You know, I just really love that scene. Also, you have probably one of my favorite Hunter x Hunter soundtracks in the background, which is Obvious Difference in Power. Just, I love that soundtrack. That was a good one. Meliorone's introduction and his ability. Nothing in particular for Meliorone, just I really like his character. And then, finally, I felt like I didn't really include anything involving Poof on this list. I didn't really care for Poof that much, but I just put, like, Poof manipulating everybody. Like, him just using his manipulation and just his Beelzebub and everything and trying to, like, have everything in control here. But he really, you know, he does and he doesn't at the same time. Sometimes they're fooled, sometimes they're not. Him trying to manipulate the king and everything in that last final hour, trying to maintain the purpose of the Chimera ant species. If I was going to pick any particular moment, though, it would probably be this scene right here with Poof, when Knuckles sees him and Poof's face changes to actual ant primal instinct. Yeah. So, yeah, those are the honorable mentions, but now let's get into the number one Chimera ant arc moment, Miriam and Co McGee's death, and also Miriam's humanity. Miriam finally tipping the scale from ant to kind of decisive to I am now a fully realized human in the sense of, like, my compassion and my empathy, and I understand what it means to be a human. What it is to love, what it is to care for another human being, which, as Netero was kind of implying, you know, he's a little bit farther above a lot of other humans in that regard. There are plenty of other humans that were, you know, not to that level that Miriam got to. I wrote down, like, a number of scenes here. Like, if you want to go down the list, like, when Miriam rips off his arm, when he first meets Co McGee, not when he meets Co McGee first, and then the scene where he rips off the arm and threatens her, kind of tests her resolve. Every single time they play a game. See, here's the thing, like, it's everything. It's not just one scene. It's everything, even if it's, like, a little scene that doesn't mean much. Even if it's a scene where Miriam is just sitting in his throne and just thinking about, like, what is with that girl? What is with that woman? I don't understand. Even if there's just a little moment like that only lasts a couple of seconds, that's part of this massive puzzle that comes to completion and the beautiful crescendo that was their final game together. And when Miriam reveals to her that he's gonna die and she's gonna die too, it's like, it's okay, leader, we'll play together. And then he finally he learns his name. And so his last act of life, one of his last acts of life, is at least answering her question. I can now tell you my name. And your name is Co McGee, I am Miriam. And then they start to play, and you don't see that you don't see them die. And it's also very appropriate that in one of the last scenes of the Hunter x Hunter anime, hand in hand, you know, they died in each other's arms. I also put in here his talk with Palm right before he meets with Co McGee, when he finds Palm in the closet, and Palm breaks down because she's like, I'm part Chimera ant. I know what our species is. I know what our species is supposed to do. You are our king. You are supposed to be the apex predator. You're supposed to lead us into this new thing, and you're going against that for this woman. So you're kind of like giving up what it means to be a chimera ant and disregarding our species so you can be with a single human being. I know what that indicates. Even when Miriam begins to bow before Palm, it's like, no. Even though Palm is not an ally of Miriam, kind of is because she's a chimera ant, but you know what I mean? Like, she's like, you can't do this. And that's, you understand why Poof was freaking out. It's every scene, though. It's every scene where Miriam is thinking to himself about Komugi, when he's playing Gungi with Komugi, when he's talking to his Royal Guard about Komugi and what his name is, when the Royal Guard are just talking to each other about Komugi, Poof thinking to himself of eliminating Komugi. It's all these moments together. Probably the moment that sticks out the best to me, other than the moment where they are finally together at the very end. And, of course, the soundtrack in the background plays a big role of this. But the other scene that I really love is the scene when Komugi is attacked by the hawk in the palace. And she's injured by the hawk. And she's just there. And she just starts crying like, no one's ever been this nice to me. And she's just this sniveling, snot dripping down her nose woman. And Miriam's there like, what is this creature? I don't know what she is. Why do I feel this way? Like, what is this? I mean, it's certainly subverted pretty much every main, like, villain trope when it comes to shonen. Like, you know, big arc starts, this is the enemy, he's evil, he's the bad guy, you have to defeat him, you have to kill him at the end of the story, and that's it. My God, that got twisted around here, didn't it? It's all the more powerful because Miriam starts off pure evil. The first thing he does upon being born is, well, his mom dies, he doesn't care about her, and then he just wipes out all the other Chimera ants just for talking to him out of turn. He's straight up evil, you know? Even when he breaks into the palace and just eats that guy's brain and he's like, ah, yes, that's the flavor. He's evil. And then, by the time Netero shows up and they have their discussion, he's a little bit more like, okay, well, I won't exterminate humans. I've met some humans that show that they are worthy of being more than just food. So perhaps I'll allow you to live in a few, you know, like a sort of farm or some kind of like a refuge for just humans for living, you know? So he's beginning to, he's not pure evil anymore. He's not, you know, he doesn't have the best case of humanity, you know, at hand here. He doesn't have their best interests at hand, but he's not evil anymore. He's more of like, you know, he's skewing away from that. And then finally you get to the final part where he accepts his humanity and he joins hands with Komugi and he becomes, you know, an ally, if anything. He doesn't attack Palm. He has no desire to fight anymore. He doesn't want to fight. He doesn't want to, you know, I don't want to eat humans anymore. I just want to be with Komugi. I just want to be with her. That's all I care about. You can also stretch this to include the moment where, you know, between Miriam and Welfin, you know, where Welfin mentions, you know, Komugi. That's another big one where he remembers her. Yeah. Once again, I feel like I can't really articulate this in words properly. So I feel like I should probably just end it there instead of just going on and on about it and just like, you know, I think that kind of like lessens it. I might very well make a video about this at some point, but this is like, this subject is so like emotional and intense. I don't even know if I'm qualified for it, but whatever. Anyway, that's the top 10 of the Chimera Ant arc of one of the single best arcs of all of anime and manga. I put a spoiler warning before this video, so I mean, I'm assuming everybody watching this has seen the arc, but even if you haven't seen it in a while, go back and watch it. Like, I watched it last fall, like in October, and then recently, because of everything going on, I'm like, oh, what am I going to watch? I need something to watch. And like, oh, Chimera Ant arc? I just watched that a couple months ago. Oh, well, let's give it another watch. And I did, and I just finished it again, and it's fine. It's like one of those things where I can watch over and over again, and I really don't feel like it's like oh, well, it doesn't feel as impactful this time around. I'm like, no, every time it's about just as emotional as the last, so check it out. Yeah, this will be Tekking signing out. This is a rather long video, but thank you for staying with me. And also make sure to check out the video between Kaio and Yugi and me, where we talked about the rankings of the arcs. Oh, something else I also wanted to bring up just when I was making this morning. You know, I love Kite. I love his Nen. I was thinking about making a video about Kite's Nen, the crazy slots. I still might do that. But my friend and fellow One Piece D&D'er, the Navigator Verona 2 Spooky, he made a really, really solid video about Kite's Nen, his crazy slots, which I think pretty much cover everything I was going to cover anyway. So go check that out there. I wanted to make sure to spot that at the end of the video. But yeah, random Hunter x Hunter video today. Really wanted to talk about the story, do something a little different. Thanks for watching, everybody. This will be Tekking signing out.